Coming up on Network Africa. Death toll rises to 23 after landfill site collapses in Uganda's capital, Kampala. More displacements in Sudan as the heavy seasonal rains kick in across the country. Plus, it's the annual International Youth Day, marking the contributions of the youth in the development of society. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Layo Olarinde. Let's begin this week with stories and happenings that made headlines over the weekend.
On Sunday, Chad celebrated its 64th Independence Day with a grand military parade in the capital, in the N'Djamena. Hundreds of military officers participated in the parade, showcasing the nation's military strength as President Mohamed Deby and other local authorities observed the proceedings. During the event, President Deby highlighted the significance of the occasion, calling on everyone to get ready for a good start to the Fifth Republic. Chad gained its independence from France on August 11, 1960, and the annual celebrations commemorate this important milestone in the country's history. Sudan's health ministry says the paramilitary rapid support forces shelled a maternity hospital in Omdurman a day after it had reopened following repairs from previous damage. The attack on the maternity hospital caused significant damage to the building, but no casualties were reported. Medical staff and patients had to be transferred to another facility. The hospital had been reopened on Thursday, August the 8th, after being rehabilitated from damage sustained during the RSF's control of the area. The ministry condemned the attack, stating that targeting medical facilities will not deter healthcare workers from providing essential services. Morocco's centuries-old Moulay Abdallah Amga Festival saw a massive turnout on Saturday, with organizers claiming as many as 700,000 people attended to watch the world-famous Mborida equestrian performances. Participants preparing for the event dressed in traditional Moroccan attire as horseback riders to watch the world-famous Mborida equestrian performances. The event happens in the El Jadida province, south of the capital of Rabat, in August every year. The Abdallah Amga season is among Morocco's most treasured festivals and is included in the UNESCO Event of Intangible Cultural Heritage list. The event originated as a meeting of tribes in the Doukala region and celebrates the memory of victorious battles fought against occupying forces.
At least 23 people are now known to have died after a landslide at a massive rubbish dump in the Ugandan capital, Kampala. Police say rescuers continue to dig through the waste in the hope of finding more survivors after the landslide, which followed weeks of torrential rain. The 36-acre Kitizi landfill is the only one serving the whole of Kampala, and that's the city home to an estimated 4 million people. Now, city authorities have reportedly been trying to find a new site for many years. A huge hill formed by the buildup of rubbish collapsed late on Friday night, burying houses on the edge of the site while residents were asleep. Well, President Yoweri Museveni has ordered an investigation into how people had been allowed to live so close to the potentially hazardous and dangerous heap, and has ordered the removal of those in what he calls the danger zone. Sudan is experiencing a child protection emergency, and the future of the country depends on a ceasefire. Now, this is according to the UNICEF representative to Sudan, Sheldon Yett, who was speaking in Port Sudan. Mr. Yett said the famine declaration in Camp Zamzam in northern Darfur by the Famine Review Committee is no small thing, and this is only the third time in some 20 years that this level of acute food insecurity has been declared.
This is no small thing. This is only the third time in some 20 years that this level of acute food insecurity has been declared. It means that children are desperate. It means that inhabitants are desperate. It means that we have an extremely alarming situation on the ground. And of course, Zamzam camp is just one small camp, some 300,000 people in Darfur. But we know it's also the canary in the coal mine. It is the indication of terrible things that are happening there, terrible food insecurity. We're bringing in supplies for severe acute malnutrition. We're ensuring that they're getting to where they need to go. It is extremely difficult to do so. The war is ongoing. There are access constraints. It's difficult to get a truck in. There are constantly new permits, bandits on the road, shooting, insecurity, extremely difficult. And unless we have peace, unless we have ceasefires, unless we've got agreements for safe access, I expect the situation to get worse. We're working every possible angle, and we're constantly in touch with all parties to ensure that food can go through. It isn't easy. It takes constant work. Food is going, but not enough. It's clear that far more work needs to be done. And frankly, unless we have security, it's hard to see how we're going to get the quantities that are required to this population.
Meanwhile, as heavy seasonal rains kick in across Sudan, refugees and internally displaced people continue to bear the brunt of a dire humanitarian situation after more than a year of the deadly war. Heavy rains and flooding have already impacted tens of thousands of people across the country, causing further displacement, injuries, and deaths. Now, the war has led to the tragedy of famine conditions, all compounded by the growing impacts of climate change. The UNHCR says over 11,000 people, including refugees hosted in the country and local communities in the eastern Kassala state, have been impacted by severe floods and heavy rains in the past 2 weeks.
We are currently in the process of distributing the non-food item, which will help forcibly displaced community that have been affected by flood to face the current situation. You can understand that this is a crisis over a crisis. The needs are still very huge. People who have been affected by floods still need shelter, health services, access to water, hygiene and sanitation. They still need access to education, child protection, but also access to livelihood opportunities.
Every August 12 is International Youth Day, celebrated to mark the contributions of the youth in the development of society. Well, each year, International Youth Day focuses on a specific theme that highlights different aspects of empowering and nurturing youth. Now, in 2024, the selected theme is From Clicks to Progress, Youth Digital Pathways for Sustainable Development. According to the UN, the theme discussed the connection between digitalization and accelerating the progress of the Sustainable Development Goals, emphasizing the crucial contributions of young people in this transformative process. Well, joining us now to discuss more on this is Fejiro Chinye-Nwoke. She's the MD CEO of Nigeria Solidarity Fund. Thank you so much for your time and happy International Youth Day to you.
Thank you for having me. I wish you the same. Happy International Youth Day.
So,
Thank
how
you.
would you interpret this year's theme, From Clicks to Progress? I'm assuming this refers to the social media generation of today.
I think that it's in line with where the trends are going right now. That beyond being on behind your phone or your mobile device or behind any digital device, we beyond whatever you do on the internet, we need to make progress in achieving our sustainable development goals, even as a country. So I think it's very important that we can't just be online critics. We can't just be digital critics. We need to put our hands on deck and improve our system in Nigeria. I think that is also very important because, like you showed earlier on in the news, a lot of African countries are going through revolution one way or the other, and then we know that our population is majorly young people. So it's important that we take active part in the change that we want to see. So this year, I think is an opportunity to call everyone back to civic responsibility, to say that, there is a role that you have to play in society. It is, if we're practicing democracy, it has to be the government by the people. And it means that you have a role to play in society and making sure that we not only meet the goals, that we meet the goals together. Yeah.
Now, in recent years, Nigerian youth have lent their voices to social issues. Take, for instance, the recent protests against bad governance and cost of living crisis. Now, how can they ensure that their voices are more effective in actually resulting in social change?
Thank you very much. I think that it is important to leverage different stakeholders. It's important to leverage different platforms. There's a difference between speaking up and actually advocating. You can speak up about an issue and nothing is done about it. But advocacy means that beyond speaking out, there's actual impact, in the sense that the right regulatory bodies, the right leadership bodies are involved. They know about the problem and they are taking the right action. So I think that is very important that youth are not only speaking up, really, but they are leveraging this existing platform. And that's why Nigeria Solidarity Support Fund, NSSF, is creating that platform and that opportunity where leaders meet with the citizens and we have a common place for dialogue. And also we are using data to inform that dialogue, because just being subjective about an issue coming from your own perspective may not make change. There are ways for change making, there are process to change making, there are frameworks to change making. And one of it is that you have to use evidence to make change. And so that leaders can give audience to you, and then you have to use credible platform. So I think it's very important that while making change, you make it in the right way, the right platform, and you use also very emotionally intelligent means to make this advocacy, and not just speaking up. There's a way, and so NSSF is part of people that are training and building the capacity of young people, empowering them with skills, knowledge, information, avenue to speak up to these people, and then to create change that will last.
Now, young people's health is also one issue that's hardly addressed. Today, there is more focus on mental health, you could say. But do you feel, physical health has been pushed to the sidelines?
But mental health is part of health. So mental health is a critical part of health. If I understand that your question is saying beyond mental health, there's physical health. And I think that, in fact, more than ever before, we have data showing the failing nature of physical health, especially around young people. We're seeing now that the incidence of several non-communicable diseases like hypertension, diabetes, cancers are becoming more popular among younger age group than before. This was more prevalent amongst older age group. So holistic disease prevalence has really increased in young people. And I think that is very important that that attention is given to this. So beyond the communicable disease, the non-communicable disease is really it's an important part of health for young people that we need to focus on. This is very important because of the economic impact of young people's health. If we have our working population unhealthy, then this is going to impact the hours that they work and going to impact our GDP as a country, and this is going to definitely impact the poverty line and all of that. So it's very important that we pay attention to this. And how do we pay attention to this? Is to first get them aware. I would first get them to understand, first get them educated that their health is important. The fact that they are young doesn't mean, and the fact that they don't seem to be frail doesn't mean that they are not likely to come under the impact or the outcomes of these diseases that can steal away their productive hours. Just to get them educated. Secondly, make sure that there is enough financial protection for health. So we are advocating for health insurance, make sure that they have financial protection and they don't get into poverty because of sickness and disease. And then is to make sure that even when they have access to health, that there is the demand, the supply is there so that the health facilities are available, the quality of care is available, healthcare workers are available. So it's a whole chain. So it's very important. Mental, physical health, very important right now, even in Nigeria amongst young people.
That's very true, and we'd like to thank you, Fejiro Chenye-Nwoke, MD CEO, Nigeria Solidarity Fund. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Let's take a break now on the program. Still to come. South African students celebrate their contributions to sustainable agriculture. More details in a moment. Please join us again. Welcome back to the program. Police in Tanzania have detained opposition leaders and rounded up several hundred supporters as they stopped a planned rally. Leaders of the opposition Chadema party, including former presidential candidate Tundu Lissu, have been arrested in the southwestern city of Mbeya. Chadema's Director of Communications and Foreign Affairs, John Rema, said that the arrests were made as the party was due to hold a rally to mark International Youth Day. And he also adds that about 500 youth supporters were also detained while making their way to the event. Well, the police had previously banned the rally, claiming that violence was planned. The Tanzanian police action comes amid a wave of protests that has swept other parts of sub-Saharan Africa in recent weeks, including nearby Kenya and Uganda. Rwanda's President Paul Kagame has been sworn in for a fourth term after sweeping to victory in an election last month with more than 99% of the vote. Several dozen heads of state and other dignitaries from African countries attended the inauguration ceremony on Sunday at a packed 45,000-seat stadium in Kigali, the capital. President Kagame took the oath of office before Chief Justice Faustin Zayo, pledging to preserve peace and national sovereignty and also to consolidate national unity. He won with 99.18%, the July 15 poll, securing another 5 years in power. He is credited with rebuilding a ruined nation after the 1994 genocide, when members of the Hutu majority unleashed 100 days of attacks targeting the Tutsi minority, killing about 800,000 people. But rights activists and opponents have said Kagame rules in a climate of fear, crushing any dissent with intimidation, arbitrary detentions, killings, and disappearances. Back here in Nigeria, some repentant terrorists have been recounting their experiences as insurgents and the intermittent desire to return to the bush owing to the level of indoctrination they received as Boko Haram members. Some of the women spoke at the de-radicalization program organized by Alamein Foundation for Peace and Development in collaboration with the Borno State government in Maiduguri.
About 200,000 Boko Haram insurgents, including fighters, family members and minors, have so far surrendered to the government since July 2021. This follows the death and split of the old group into ISWAP and Boko Haram and other smaller groups in the Sambisa, Mandara Mountains and the Lake Chad region.
Yeah, it should be.
Some of the former insurgents surrendered willingly to the troops of the Nigerian army. Others were rescued during military operations, while some escaped the camps. In response to the mass surrender, government initiated a program to ensure smooth reintegration of the former insurgents back to the society. This idea birthed what is known as the Borno Model Reintegration. The special advisor on security to the governor, who doubles as the executive secretary Borno Security Task Force, and the commissioner for Women Affairs and Social Development speak on the rehabilitation and reintegration program of the government.
What we have that were integrated to the community are low risk and minor. You need to see some of these boys. Some of them were 6 years, 7 years when they were conscripted. And they are the ones that were actually reintegrated back to community. But the fighters are still with us, the fighter. And one interesting thing about this issue is that over 95% of the die-hard Boko Haram were killed as a result of military action and also infighting among themselves.
At the occasion of the reintegration of a batch of 30 women who have undergone de-radicalization processes by Alamein Foundation for Peace and Development in Maiduguri, were well-wishers from representatives of security agencies, civil society groups, religious organizations, and stakeholders. Two women, wives of late fighters of Shekau, speak on their experiences.
The repentance that are being celebrated is not genuine. Some of them had to surrender because it was the only option left. They still hold dear to their belief. Community people were forced to accept them, and they did it.
Yara ƙanana yanda ake hukunci da sauransu babu wanda bata sani. Daji kafin shi ya shiga suka kira shi a lokacin ne na shiga daji.
I was living in Kano while my husband was a teacher under Muhammad Yusuf, the founder of Boko Haram. We had 3 children. Then his colleague and him ran to the bush when the search for them became intense by civilian joint task force. It was the death and subsequent split of the Boko Haram that led to the in-house fighting that made me escape.
Lokacin shugabannin wajen ne suke kula da ni kuma sun.
So far, 90 women and minors have been reintegrated by the foundation, while several others are undergoing rehabilitation and de-radicalization process, after which they will be reintegrated into the society.
In South Africa, students are putting their education on sustainable agriculture to good use as they harvest fresh foods planted months ago. The teachers say it is also part of efforts in promoting healthy eating and living.
Students at Ntoa Salobo Primary School in Western Cape Town celebrate the fruits of their labor this week as they harvest vegetables from their after-school community garden. The program, launched in May, aims to provide fresh organic food to the students and their families.
Today we come as a ECP team and Ntoa Salobo's primary school staff to harvest after we've planted in this beautiful garden, as you can see, on the 16th of May this year. So today it was that day where we come together with Eco Warriors, environmental kids that are participating on extramurals, like in the afternoon every day on Tuesdays. So we all came together as a family, a child project and the school to harvest and to see this beauty of garden.
Excited students learn how to harvest the crops they had planted months earlier, guided by program facilitators who also provided lessons on the importance of sustainable agriculture.
I'm very proud to be an eco-warrior. Every day when I'm here at school, I'm very happy because I know when I'm at school, I can be an eco-warrior and take care of my school.
The community garden, covering 280 square meters of the school's land, is a key part of the school's feeding scheme, which provides meals for over 1,000 children daily. According to a program facilitator, many students rely on the school for their only meal of the day, which often lacks fresh ingredients.
A lot of the learners that come to the school get their only meal of the day is here at school. It's one of the reasons they're very eager to come to school. Besides learning, it's also that they're actually getting a meal. The problem is that those meals don't have a lot of fresh ingredients. And if there are fresh ingredients, for example, like carrots and cabbage that sometimes they get in the recipe, it's definitely not organic.
The garden helps address this gap by supplying fresh produce. Ntuwasa Lobo Primary School is one of 4 schools in the Khayelitsha region participating in Earth Child Project programs, which focus on promoting health and sustainability amongst young learners.
And that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.